Shall we start officially, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please.
Good evening, one and all. Today is day 4, session 4 in our ACT ATAL Academy sponsored 2 weeks blended faculty development program on radiation exposure and its impact on human health. Today's session will be presented by Dr. N. Ponpandian, Professor and Head, Department of Nanoscience and Technology, Bharathiar University, Coimbatore, on the topic research methodology. Before we start, let us give a short introduction about Dr. N. Ponpandian.
It's my pleasure to introduce the guest of honor for today's session, Dr. N. Ponpandian, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yes.
Dr. N. Ponpandian is professor and head of the Department of Nanoscience and Technology of Bharathiar University, Coimbatore. He is also the director of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Bharathiar University. He is a fellow of Royal Society Chemistry and Academy of Sciences, Chennai. He received his MSc and MPhil degree in physics from Ayyanadar Janaki Ammal College, Shivagasi, and obtained his PhD in physics, material science from the University of Madras in the year of 2003 for his work on magnetic and electrical properties of nanocrystalline spinel ferrites and fine met alloys under the guidance of Professor A. Narayanasamy. Before joining Bharathiar University in 2008, he was working as a postdoctoral fellow in the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, USA, and the University of Rostock, Germany for nearly 2 years. He also served as a visiting scientist in Free University of Berlin in Germany for 3 years and research associate in Indian Institute of Science for 9 months. In February 2008, he has joined the Department of Nanoscience and Technology of Bharathiar University as a reader. In March 2014, he has promoted as professor, and since July 2015, he is heading the same department. He is the author and co-author for more than 210 publications in peer-reviewed international journals and more than 180 papers in conferences, seminars, workshops, etc. He has delivered more than 300 lectures in various events with different capacities. His papers are cited more than 9,200 times by researchers throughout the world. He is an editorial board member in Scientific Report, Nature Publishing Group, UK. He is the reviewer in more than 50 international journals. 15 research scholars have already obtained their PhD degree under his supervision, and he guided more than 19 students for their MPhil degree. At present, 5 research scholars are working under his guidance. He has completed 5 projects funded by UGC, DST, DRDO, etc., and 3 ongoing research projects. He also became the coordinator for the UGC Special Assistance Program and DST FIST program of the department. He has visited several universities in Germany and USA. He also obtained several awards, and he has recently received the Tamil Nadu Scientist Award, Government of Tamil Nadu. He has been listed as world top 2% scientist in applied physics by the survey made by Stanford University Research Group based on Scopus. He is serving in different committees in various capacities in different organizations. He also involved in the fabrication of several instruments like ultra-high vacuum chamber for the preparation of ultra-pure nanomaterials by inert gas condensation process, high temperature sample holders for impedance measurements, vacuum melt spinning unit for preparing amorphous materials, ultra-high vacuum compatible Helmholtz coil for magnetic measurements in synchron radiation, and soft X-ray polarimeter with material preparation chamber for in situ X-ray absorption studies in synchronous radiation. So we are delighted in welcoming you, sir. Once again, welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your detailed introduction about me. Can I start?
Please, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. First of all, I thank the organizers, Dr. Krishnamurthy and Dr. Sangeeta, and all the faculty members of the Science and Humanities Department of the Eastward College, as well as the management principal for giving me the opportunity to deliver my lecture in this ATAL sponsored workshop, ATAL Academy workshop. Today's my presentation is about the research methodology. I discussed with Dr. Krishnamurthy, and he has insisted me to give the lecture in three different aspects. One is actually the research methodology, how to start the research and execute the research, and how to write the research articles, and finally how to write the research proposals. And the three components, I'm going to cover the three components during my lectures, but the time is too short again. It's only 2 hours, maximum of 2 hours. Covering the three component is very tough, but even then I will try my level best to explain the three component. Okay, first of all, I would like to share my slide. From then I can continue. First one. Are you able to see my slide?
Yes, sir. Very much, sir. Very much, sir.
But is it in the full screen?
Yeah, it should be a wide screen, sir.
Not
Slide show is not there.
Maybe I have to do it in a different way. Maybe I can stop sharing. Again, 1 minute. One minute, sir. I just would like to start. Stop. I don't know where to stop. Okay, now. Are you able to see the full screen mode now?
Yeah, it is not full screen, sir.
Not 1 minute, 1 minute. Sir. Some issue. I will sort it out a second. Stop share. Okay. Now I can share.
Yeah, now it's full, sir.
No, I have not yet shared.
Yeah. Can see the image.
I hope now it is in the full screen mode.
Yes, sir. Now it's perfect, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please take the session.
This is what the topic, the first topic, the methodologies for scientific research. Okay. The second topic, I can explain about the article writing, scientific article writing. Maybe some part is cut. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Now it's moving. Okay. Okay. You all know that the research, I don't have to explain much here. All are the participants, most of us are actually the teachers. We know what is research, but I don't have to explain. But even then, I like to stress upon some point in the research. From that, one can easily understand and the proper research, because nowadays many of the research scholars, not the teachers, they don't understand what is research. Even then, they can start do some research. Okay, the basic understanding in the research is very, very important. That is what I would like to stress upon my lecture today here. Okay, these are actually the definitions of research. Okay, what is, for example, the main goal of research is the gathering and interpreting of information to answer questions. Okay, because you all know that there are two different kind of research in the world. One is actually the incremental research and another one is a translational research. You all know many of the researchers are actually working on the incremental research. The concept is already there, but we wanted to improve the efficiency somehow. That is what the incremental research. What is meant by the translational research? For example, something we are not able to resolve. That is what we, in order to resolve that particular thing, we have to find out something. That is what the translational research. Example, the cancer is a research. Okay, for example, the cancer, you know that we don't have any curable medicine for cancer. If you find out one, then that is a translational research. These are the two different types of research in the world. But we are not looking for that. Whatever what we are doing the research in the nowadays in the research group, we are setting up some preparation. For example, in the material science aspect, we are preparing some material and characterizing some material, and again after characterization we do some application like that the people are used to do like that in different aspect. In biology, something different. They have some protocol, they execute the protocol, finally if they achieved or not, and they compile the data and get some PhD degree. Like that they are executing the research. You all know that now the country is in the translational mode. What is meant by again translation mode? Every project or every research, they are asking for the societal impact, how our research influences on the society. That is what everybody is interested. The funding agencies also nowadays, if you write the research proposal, what will be the final product? They are always asking what will be the final product. Okay, because you all know that in the research aspect, sometime back, if you are do some research and publishing a paper, that is enough. And later, after some time, what they are asking is some high quality publication, not the publication, then high quality publication. After some time, what happens is this high quality publication become converted as a patent. Okay, now they are not interested in the patent also. Even the funding agency or the government, they are not interested in even in the patent too. What they are asking now, whether your patent is actually transferred as a product. Okay, that is actually transferred as a product. If you have a product, then you are a successful researcher. This is what the transformation happened. Publication, quality publication, patent, now product. Okay, this is what the people are interested nowadays. For that, what we have to do, how to do the research and how to execute the research. Okay, what we have to do is we have to decide the problem you wanted to solve. But many of the researcher is not doing that. Okay, they simply prepare something and do some characteristics. This is what I explained in the past. That is what they are doing. That is not the case. Okay, if you are started performing some research, you have to, for example, you wanted to do some sensor. For example, there is a glucose sensor in biology. Okay, in our blood, there is a glucose. For example, the diabetic patients, they always wanted to check the glucose level. Okay, for that, already there is a device. Okay, the first we have to study that particular device. What is the advantages and disadvantages of that particular device? From that, there are certain disadvantages might be there, and you have to resolve that particular disadvantage. For that, you have to design a problem, research problem. Okay, that is what. For example, I know the problem with that particular glucometer. There is a one strip that is called it as enzymatic strip that is based on biological enzyme. That enzyme may degrade after some time. That is a first problem. And another important issue is that strip is too costly. Okay, that is minimum of 30. One strip is minimum of 30 rupees in Indian point of view. Okay, in order to resolve means reduce the cost as well as the degradation. You have to stop the degradation. You have to start working on that. This is your problem. Now, how to replace the enzymatic strip with another kind of strip, okay, without enzyme. That you have to think. Okay, again, in that, there might be some advantage and disadvantage. You have to think of that advantage and disadvantage. And for that, there you may have to use some catalytic material. You may have to use some catalyst. And for that, which catalyst is the best one? For that, you have to decide. First, then how to improve the catalytic activity of that particular one. In that way, you have to think it in the reverse way. You have to always think it in the reverse way. Instead of just preparing some material and characterizing them some material and applying that material for that purpose, you have to come out from your idea in the reverse way. This is what the modern research. Okay, here you can see there are some points, the definition of research. The first one I have already explained. The second one you can see the research is a systematic attempt to provide answers to questions. So this is another man definition, Tuckman in 1999. There is another definition. You can see the research may be defined as the systematic and objective analysis and recording of controlled observation that may lead to the development of generalizations, principles, or theories resulting in prediction and possible control of events. This is another definition. There is one more definition you can see. The research is a systematic way of asking questions, a systematic method of inquiry, and systematically solve those issues. This is what I explained now. Okay, you need to have some systematic thinking and systematic design. That is the most important thing in terms of research. Okay, this is actually the 4 different steps involved in the scientific method of research. The first one, what you have to do is you have to observe. That is what I explained. Okay, that device, the glucometer is a device. You have to first observe. What are the things are there in the glucometer operation? There is a needle, and the needle you have to inject in one part of your body. From that, you have to take a drop of blood. And that blood will be put it into the strip, and strip is connected to the glucometer. Okay, these are the operation. Inside the glucometer, there may be some component, but the external components are this one. These are your observation. Otherwise, you take simply a fan, electrical fan. In the fan, there is a motor, and the motor, there is a coil as well as a there's a magnet inside. There is a motor that contains a magnet. If you switch on the fan, automatically the fan rotates. Okay, these are all observation. Now we have as soon as we switch on and make it as a maximum speed, then it can rotate with a 600 RPM. Okay, now my intention is to make this 600 RPM to 1000 RPM. Okay, this is what my observation. For that, I have to make a hypothesis. How to increase it? Because in the controller, there is a potentiostat. You can increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and fan. Fan is a maximum speed. F is a maximum speed with that potentiostat. Beyond that, the fan speed will not increase. How to increase further? For that, you have to increase the voltage in the potentiostat. That is one way. Or the other way, you can change if you increase the voltage, then what will happen? The coil may burn. Okay, for that, you have to increase the number of turns in the coil. Number of turns in the coil, and the motor, the magnet strength also may be increased. This is what the hypothesis. Okay, now after making all these changes, you have to test it. Okay, if you test, then if it works, then it will be fine. If it is not working, then you have to go back to the hypothesis. Again, you have to redo the hypothesis. Okay, if you redo the hypothesis, again start testing. If it works, then your prediction is good. Okay, your prediction is good, and again you can reorganize all the process again. This is what one has to do. For example, you are setting some protocol. Sometimes the protocol may work. Sometimes it may not work in the research problem. For that, you have to change the protocol or hypothesis. This is what the scientific method of research, because the research will not come in truth with one single step. Okay, you have to do several steps. Then only you can finally achieve the result find. Okay. Now, what is mean by hypothesis? Okay, this is the you can see this particular step. The second step is a hypothesis. What is mean by hypothesis? Okay, here the hypothesis is a tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test its logical or empirical consequences. Okay, this I have given some examples also here. Okay, here for example is actually the hypothesis of author. Anton, for example, what he is thinking is ionic radius of titanium 4 plus that enhances desorption kinetics. This is what his hypothesis. But what is his observation? This observation in paper is actually, for example, with a sample of sodium aluminum hydrate doped with titanium 4 plus and 3 plus and titanium 2 plus have different ionic radii but the same rate of enhanced hydrogen desorption kinetics. This is what observation. Now he is making the new hypothesis. Okay, this is what it is called it as a hypothesis. Now, the next important step is keys to implementation in your research. Okay, always if you make some good hypothesis that can be always tested in the experimental or in the calculation way. Okay, but this requires a lot of thought and reading, and again the leap from observation to hypothesis. This is what, for example, next I can give you some suggestions. No one can tell you that how to do this, and you have to develop your skill. Okay, I can tell you one example. For example, whenever the physics teacher come to the class, he always explained the Ohm's law first. Okay, in the electricity and magnetism means he explained the Ohm's law. Always the people or the students, they remember that V equal to IR. This is what the Ohm's law. Okay, but the definition of the Ohm's law is start from at constant temperature, the current flow in a circuit is proportional to the voltage. V is proportional to I, but V equal to IR. R is a resistance. But the people doesn't know, okay, what is mean by resistance. Okay, R means resistance. What is resistance? They all simply tell that there is a resistance. How to understand the resistance? That is the most important thing. Okay, for example, in order to understand the resistance, but you should know the current. What is current? There is a flow of electron. Okay, flow of electron is a current. Okay, that happens through what? The flow of electrons happens through some conductors. That conductor is actually either aluminum or copper. This aluminum or copper, that is made up of atoms. Okay, you all know that the atoms have a positive charge in the center and the electron rotate around the nucleus. Now, the flow of electron in the circuit that go and hit the atom in the copper or aluminum. Okay, when the electron go and hit the atom, there is a mechanical energy induced. Okay, for example, if you take two stones and again if you hit it, then that is actually a mechanical motion. After sometimes this mechanical energy is converted to thermal energy. That is what happens. When the potential applied to the circuit is less, the wire is not at all heated. If you start increasing the potential, the electron flow is very high. Thereby the hitting the atom is also very fast. Thereby the wire will be heated. Okay. Again, if you further increase the voltage, sometimes the heat will be enormous, the wire will be break. That is what the concept of fuse wire. Okay, now the mechanical energy is converted into thermal energy. This is what the electrical law occurs. That is what the resistance, the atom that control the flow of electron. That is what the resistance. This is what the understanding the electrical resistance. Like that, if the students are understanding all the problems, then only they can, the research problems comes in their mind. Okay, in order to understand all the physical concept or any concept should be understood like that. Then only the new research issues comes in their mind. Okay, now the next important one is actually the experimental. After hypothesis, they have to test. Okay, they have to test. Here example, the new hypothesis he made it is titanium 2 plus, titanium 3 plus, and titanium 4 plus adopt the same oxidation state after entering into sodium aluminum hydride structure. Okay, he tested with some experiment. That is actually the extended X-ray absorption fine structure measurement through the spectroscopic investigation, and he found that and he proved it. Okay, this is what the experimental testing. If the test is good, then he has proved. If the test is again wrong, then he is not able to prove again. He has to go back to the hypothesis and do the hypothesis again. This is what the experimental testing. And the predictions, what he has predicted after the experiments, he has to, the test he has made it is X-ray measurement. He has predicted, he is having two prediction, prediction 1 and prediction 1. In the prediction 1, the titanium 2 plus and titanium 3 plus as well as the titanium 4 plus gain equivalent oxidation state after entering the structure. Okay, but in this prediction 2, if titanium 2 plus, 3 plus, and 4 plus gain equivalent oxidation states after entering into the structure via ball milling, there is a technique to prepare the nanostructures material, then the same should be true for all the three ionic state after entering the structure via chemical precipitation from this particular sample. Both the method, okay, ball mill as well as the chemical precipitation, both are similar. This is what is prediction. Okay, this is what the experiment has to be executed. Then the next important one is a mathematical models. Okay, for example, some things may be empirical and actual should be predicted from the experiment. Okay, initially we can think something empirically, but after that you have to prove that that is correct. The empirical and the real results are actually exactly matches. Okay, for example, here the particular experimentalist, he has prepared a sample, he has measured the exact measurements, and based on that, he has prepared a model that is a past Fourier transform, and he has prepared some spectroscopic structure, and this one exactly matches with the experimentally observed one. Then he has proved the mathematical model too. Okay, this is not happening in many of the modern research. Okay, the experimentalists always prove that the experimental data matches with the theoretical prediction. Then only your experimental results and theoretical predictions are good. Okay, how to develop the research skill? Okay, the first thing what we have to do is learning how to conduct the good research. For that, the new skills, okay, that many people do not have. How the new skills come? You always have to think. That thinking power. For example, the youngsters, nowadays the young researchers, they have a lot of time as well as they have a lot of tools, but they are not utilizing their mind not in a proper way. Okay, that's the problem. If they use it in a proper way, and they have a lot of new avenues compared to us. Okay, but again, if they started to think something, definitely they can do something. Okay, for example, now the innovation, nowadays everybody is talking about innovations. What is innovations? The innovation only come through research? No, it is not at all. Okay, the innovation comes through only from the mind and how they are thinking. That is an important thing. Okay, based on research also some innovation may come, but in order to, if you think, and from thinking, if you get some innovation, that is better than the research. Okay, I can tell you one simple example for the innovation. Recently, I find out one teacup. Okay, you all know that the plastic cup, always there should be a bottom, and top of that there is a cylindrical one. That too, somehow tie up and we pour the water and drink it. This is what the water cup. If you want to make a tea on that, what will we put? Pour a hot water on that. Again, if you tip a packet of tea on that and if you drink it, this is what usually do that. What is innovation? Now, there is an innovation on that. What is that innovation? In the bottom of the cup, the round bottom of the cup, they have a cloth pack, and that cloth pack is filled with some tea leaf. Okay. Now, when they are tying that particular bottom with that cylindrical one, they put that pack in the bottom and stitch the back along with that top of that cylinder, and in that way, that pack is completely tie up with that particular cup. If you put it down also, it will not come out. Now, if you pour the hot water on that and the tea bag contains that particular tea bag in that particular cup, the essence will come out and you can drink the tea and throw it away. This is what is small innovation. Okay. This, how this comes, did they do any research? No. This comes out only from the thinking. Okay. There is an innovative way of thinking. If you start thinking in this kind of innovative way only, the real research problem also can be obtained. Thereby, you have to always have a thinking. Then only the new research problems comes into our mind. Then the next important thing is better understanding and interpretation of the literature. Okay, in order to frame the research problem, you should have a lot of idea related to that. I already explained about the glucometer. For that, you should read many related literature on that. You have to read literature on the glucometer itself, and again regarding the enzymatic strip, and enzymatic strip contain like some catalyst enzymes. All the things you should read in the literature. If you read, then only the real properties of that particular tool comes in your mind and you can try to solve that particular issue. Then the next important one is recognize new questions that need investigation. Then the next important one is objectivity is the key element of research always. Okay, in that way, then objectivity is also very important. Okay, this is actually the simplified research process. The first one is an idea. That is what I mentioned in the previous slide. That comes through either thinking and reading of literature. And again, you have to do the thorough latest review of literature related to the specific topic. And again, from that, you have to identify the problem. There is a gap analysis. Usually they tell that gap analysis. Okay, what is the disadvantage related to that particular issue? From that, you have to frame the hypothesis and then you can design your experimental analysis related to that one. Okay, if your experiment is successful, okay, then you can directly go to frame a system. That means you can make a prototype. Okay, if there is a problem, again you have to reframe the hypothesis. Again, go back to the original idea. Again, come back. Okay, this is what you have to resolve the research process. Okay, again, here the new questions, how the new question arises. Again, the first thing is you have to find out the questions. The questions should be identified, hypothesis formed, research plan, data collection. Again, the results will be interpreted. If the result is not good, again, you have to identify the question. A question means a problem, and you have to resolve that problem with another hypothesis. Okay, these are actually some of the research questions. The research questions may be three types. One is actually the descriptive questions, difference questions, and relationship questions. What is meant by descriptive, what is meant by difference, and the relationship questions that we can see it. Here, these are actually the descriptive questions. Here the purpose, for example, to describe phenomena characteristics of particular group of subjects being studied. There are two different ones. One is a survey research. Mostly the social science aspect, they always do the survey research. For example, in the one kind of survey research is a cancer research. For example, in the Coimbatore area, they identify some part in the Coimbatore. Okay, different area in the east, west, south, like that. They identify some area, and from that, which particular area more number of cancer patients are there. That is a one kind of survey. And we know that the cause for cancer. Okay, in that way, they find out the problem in that particular area. What are the causes induces the cancer? That is another kind of survey. Like that, they used to do so many surveys. Based on the survey, they will come to some conclusion and give some new avenue. Okay, then another important thing is actually the qualitative research. Okay, qualitative research means, for example, if they take some water, okay, from the water they find it out what are the elements, different elements present in that particular water. That is in the qualitative manner. And in that also, they can do some quantitative manner. That is a different kind. That is not a descriptive question. Okay, the next important here, the example for this one is determinants of college students' health promoting lifestyles. That is a kind of survey research. And again, another one is MMW or Mortal Weekly Report. That is a kind of journal. From that, what they are studying is school-based HIV prevention education in United States in year 1994. This is a qualitative research. Okay, like that they can do. Another important kind of research is a different questions here. The purpose is to make comparisons between different things or within the groups. And again, is there a difference? Experimental research, there the treatment versus control, pre versus post-test comparisons, and again, non-experimental research, there compare one group to another that is based on the existing characteristics. This is what the difference question. The example for this one is, for example, reduced strength after passive stretch of the human plantar flexus. There is a kind of one. And another kind of research is a relationship question. Here the purpose is to investigate the degree to which two or more variables co-vary or are associated with each other. Here there are three components. One is rather than analyzing the differences between the groups, here what the researchers are doing is characterize the relationship among them as well as the extent to which variables are related, and again not to establish cause and effect. This is what the relationship questions. Okay, these are some of the examples. The relationship of cardiovascular fitness and physical activity to cardiovascular disease risk factors in children as well as the adults. Then the next important one is a theory versus hypothesis. Because the theoretical people, they always predict something, but experimentally, we are not able to achieve the theoretical predictions. Okay, that is the most important thing in many cases. For example, a belief or prediction of the eventual outcome of the research is the first case. But here again, in order to have a concrete, specific statement about the relationship between phenomena, again based on deductive reasoning. That is an important thing in hypothesis. In terms of theory, a belief or assumption about how things relate to each other. And another important thing is a theory establishes a cause-and-effect relationship between variables with a purpose of explaining. For example, if you are doing something experimentally, the theoretical people may not fit that particular experimental data with a theoretical prediction. What they used to do immediately is they would put some extra parameter and try to match that particular data with the experimental data. This is what they used to do. And finally, they find out the reason for that. This is what the theory used to do. Again, the final important one is based on inductive reasoning. Okay, these are actually the theory versus hypothesis. Okay, because from the hypothesis, always the people used to make the theories. From the theories only, we can make different laws. Okay, for example, in physics, chemistry and all, there are so many laws. Again, in the social science aspect also, some of the laws are evolved, and that all based on the hypothesis and theory, and finally the laws are. Okay, the research plus here I can explain about the research classification. There are three different systems. There is a system 1, system 2, and system 3. The system 1 is actually the basic research as well as the applied research. System 2 is actually the quantitative research as well as the qualitative research. And again, system 3 is actually the experimental research and again the non-experimental or theoretical research. These are actually the classifications in research. What is meant by basic versus applied research? If you do some pure fundamental research, then it is actually a basic. Applied means you know the central purpose to solve an immediate problem. Okay, that is what I explained. You have to, nowadays, the researchers are thinking in the reverse side, not from the basic side. They started from the applied side and later they can explain the concept, basic concepts in the final stage of their research. Okay, in the basic, again, discovery of new knowledge, theoretical in nature, and again in the applied science, their improved products or process stage, and takes, in the basic side, again, takes many years for the results of basic research to find some practical utility. But in the applied side, you have to find out the product in the beginning stage. In first, beyond the group of or situation studied, again interpretation of results relies upon basic research. Okay, that is another important thing. Applied research also need basic research because you all know that the rocket, okay, because the rocket, we are launching the rocket several times, but it is not going up for all the time. Sometimes there is a failure happens. There the basics research or basic law, that is a Newton's third law, that never fails. The technology, the applied part of that particular technology fails sometime, but after that, the technology problem is resolved, then again it is going up. That is what the difference between basic and applied research. Again, the quantitative versus qualitative. Here, the quantitative means the numerical measurable data. We can have a numerical measurable data. There, the generic data. Okay, generally non-numerical data. And again, here it is a traditional or positivistic approach in the quantitative way. But there, typically it is an anthropological and sociological research methods. Again, here we have a rational, clearly stated questions are there in the quantitative manner, there it is not. Again, rational hypothesis, again, developed research procedures are there in the quantitative. Again, extraneous variable controls, large samples, traditional statistical analysis, everything there in the quantitative way. Qualitative way, the research is not so accurate. In the quantitative way, the research is more accurate, but in the qualitative way, it is not so accurate. Again, the experimental versus non-experimental. Here, the experimental way, we can have several accurate determinant values are there. Okay, but in the non-experiment, we can have some predictions. Only we have some predictions, and the predictions sometimes may true and sometimes may be false. That is what the experimental and non-experimental. And again, these are actually some of the steps to do for the experimental research. And these are all general thing. Because of the time, I can skip some of the slides here and directly explain some more important topics related to this. Okay, these are again some more core topic in the related topic. Data, how to do the data analysis, everything. They know that. Okay, now this is again the same thing which I have explained in the hypothesis. Here you can see the research. The first part is the research. Again, the second one is find a problem. The third one is make a hypothesis. Fourth one is an experiment. Fifth one is a compilation of data. Sixth one is form a conclusion. If the conclusion is not happy with your research, then you can answer that particular conclusion and again reprocess your research. Maybe find another problem and again redo the research, and this is a continuous research. Is again, it is a continuous one. Okay. Now, this all about the basic research. I can go understand little bit. because it's a little hot topic. The research, everyone knows that. Doing research, everybody is doing research. But the question is, do they do it in a systematic way? That is the thing. Okay. For example, when I explaining the next part, how to write a research article, from that you can easily understand how one can execute the research in terms of experimental or theoretical or survey-based research. Okay. Now, so do we need any break? So I can continue for the 2 hours lectures.
Yes, you can proceed, sir. You can proceed.
Okay, okay. Okay, now I can go to the next part of my lecture. That means how to write a scientific paper. Okay, even if you do some good research, okay, the research is only some 30 to 40%. The research is only 30 to 40%. Now you have some results. Okay, you have some results. Now the next part of your research is actually how to express your findings. That is the important thing. Okay, how to express your findings. That is one way of expressing your finding is actually writing a article, writing a research article. The next way is presenting your findings in terms of orally. Okay, these are the two ways. If you are expressing these two in a very good way, then only your research is exposed to others. Okay, otherwise, if you are a good researcher, you have a lot of good results in your hand. If you are not expressing that results in terms of writing as well as the oral presentation, then your research is completely masked. Okay, nobody knows what are the things you have performed. Okay, that is what the scientific paper or writing a research paper or presenting the research findings. Okay, both are almost similar. Okay, either you should present it in a good way or you can write it in a good way. Both they will help you to express your findings to the others. Okay, now you all know that scientific experiment is not complete. That's what I mentioned now, until the results have been published and understood. Okay, again, this scientific paper is a written and published report describing original research results. That is what the scientific article. Whatever the research you have performed, in the first part, we have seen the different kind of research. From that, you might have some results, and that results might be expressed in a proper way. You have some original results in your hand. You have to express that results in a better way. Okay, what is meant by scientific writing? What is scientific writing? Why do you have to write? You all know that this is what we need the writing. The purpose of scientific writing is to communicate new scientific findings. Okay, for example, Newton might have derived the laws. If you write that laws in a book or journal, then only we know about that particular laws. Okay, like that, the new research articles. Okay, nowadays, for example, there are so many research happening in the world in terms of physical aspect, chemical, biological, engineering aspects. One such example is a television. You all know that in our generation, we might have seen several televisions. One is a CRT-based display, the first kind of television. And the second kind of television is a LCD, that is a liquid crystal-based monitors. Okay, later that monitors also converted as a plasma-based displays. Okay, there's some disadvantages because of the heating. Again, that plasma-based displays are converted into LED bulb-based displays. Now, in the LED also, there is another kind of device that is a quantum LEDs, that is QLEDs based TV. Okay, these many TVs are available during our generation. During last 10 years, these concepts may change from CRT to now QLEDs. Okay, that is what the research, new research. Okay, now the scientists, they have invented all the things, but if they are not expressing their ideas in terms of publication, these devices might not evolve in the world. For that, the writing is an important one. Again, this writing that should be clear and again in the very simple manner and again well-ordered communication to transmit new scientific findings. Okay, and another important thing is that scientific writing must use proper English, which gives the sense in the fewest short words. Because sometimes if you write some poor English, the meaning also may be changed. Sometimes the meaning may be in the opposite way also. Thereby, the way of writing the article is very, very important. There, the English also, the language also play a vital role. Okay, all these things are very important when you are writing the scientific article. Okay, these are some history about the writing of origins of scientific writing. This and all not so important in our case. Okay, now there is a Imbrad story when you are writing the scientific article. Okay, there the introduction, methods, results, and discussion. That is what the Imbrad. I means introduction, M means materials and methods. Sometimes it is called it as not only methods, that is called it as materials and methods. That is M. Results, that is means R, and A, and D is actually the discussion. That is what it is called it as a Imbrad story. Okay. For example, in early journals, in the ancient times, the journals that published descriptive papers. Okay, that is still used in some places. That can be still used in case reports, geological surveys, etc. Okay, but in the second half of the 19th century, they check always the reproducibility of the experimental results. That become the fundamental principle of the philosophy of science. Okay, if you are performing some research, that should be repeatable. Then only it will be applicable to make certain device. Okay, they are checking the reproducibility of the experiment. That happened in the second half of the 19th century. Okay, what will be next? Again, here in the method section, when you are writing the scientific article, in the method section that become all important since Louis Pasteur that confirmed the germ theory of the disease. That should be repeated. Okay, and again, if they found some medicine or some drugs, okay, that formulation should be repeated by everyone. In that way, they have to deliver their methods. Okay, then only that will be useful for several people. Thereby, this IMRAD, the introduction, materials and methods, results and discussion, organization of a scientific paper started to develop in the second half of the 19th century. This IMRAD format slowly progressed in the latter half of the 19th and again beginning of 20th century. Now, what is there in the introduction? What question or problem which we have to study? That is what there in the introduction. Okay, before that, I just would like to explain how to write the research article and how to start and how to end. Okay, because I know that how the people are nowadays, many of the research scholars, including my own research scholar, how they are writing the research article. What they used to do is, first they start with the title. Okay, they simply write the title and they actually simply sit and wait for, and they simply look, think that this article is already published in the some good journal, and in that way they think it, but it's not happened like that. Again, the next step what they used to do is they simply return the title. The next they used to write an abstract. Again, that will take another week time. Then the next step they used to write the introduction. Okay, again, they used to write materials and methods or methods. Again, after some time, they started writing the results one by one, result and discussion one by one. Then they make a conclusion. They make a references, all the things in this sequence only they used to do. Okay. Do you think that this is a correct method of writing the scientific article? That is not at all. Okay. How to write the scientific article? That you have performed some experiments or some theoretical calculations. Okay. Experiment or theoretical calculations or some survey data. Okay. If there is a survey data, that should be tabulated first. That should be tabulated, and that tables, from the table, either you can make a graph, line graph or bar graph or pie chart or anything from the table. And otherwise, you can conclude something from the, you can make some ordering, ascending order, descending order, from largest to smallest, like that you can make something in the table. Okay, these are actually called it as an analysis. Okay, that is in the survey. In the theoretical results also, you have performed some experiment. From that, some numerical data, that data may be plotted as a graph or something. Okay, in the experimental results also like that. You have certain results and you can do some image analysis or some data analysis or graph analysis. All the things should be done first. Okay, now the analysis part is over. From that, you are making either some graph or some images or some tabulations. Okay, like that you have some data. Okay, what will be the next step? What will be the next step? From the figure, okay, we have to write a figure caption. Okay, that is the next step. Okay, see the figure and write the figure caption. That is the next step. Okay, what will be the next step? Okay, we all know that in Tamil என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க, அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் செகண்ட் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் படிக்கிற ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸுக்கு ஒரு பிக்சர் கொடுத்துருவாங்க. அந்த பிக்சரை கொடுத்து படம் பார்த்து கதை சொல்லி, ஓகே, சின்ன கிளாஸ்ல நம்ம படிச்சிருப்போம். அந்த காக்கா தண்ணியை குடிக்கிறதுக்கு கல்லை பொறுக்கி போட்டு தண்ணி குடிக்குது அப்படிங்கிறத படிப்பாங்க ஆக்சுவலா. ஓகே, திஸ் இஸ் வாட் த கான்செப்ட். இங்கேயும் அதே தான். இந்த ரிசர்ச் ஆல்சோ த சேம் திங். ஃப்ரம் த கிராஃப், whatever the observations you are seeing from the graph, we have to list out in the bottom of that particular graph or bottom of the table or bottom of your images. Whatever the things in the graph, you have to list it out. Okay, that is what the results. That is what the results that you are written as a one single simple paragraph. Okay, what you have to do now, the next step. What will be the next paragraph in the research article? We have already results. You have to make a comparison. Okay, you have to compare these results with either your own results or some literature, or you can repeat the results and compare. In that way, you can make some comparison from that. If your results is deviating from the experimentally obtained one, previous values or literature values, then you have to write what are the deviations you are observing. Okay, what are the deviations you are observing from your research? Okay, that is the second paragraph. Okay, what will be the next? Now you have the results and you have the analysis. Okay, the second paragraph is you have analyzed your results by comparing the results with many other literature or other things. Okay, now in the analysis part, you found that the result is deviating. Now only you have to find out the reason for that. Why the results is deviating? What is the reason for deviation? Okay, then you have to, if you find out the reason for the deviation, then you have to justify that one. That is what your discussion. Okay, now the result, analysis, then discussion. All these part is actually completed. That means you have written almost completing almost 60 to 70% of your scientific article writing. Okay, this is what the first step when you are start writing the research article. What will be the next step? Now your entire result and discussion part is over. Entire result and discussion part is over. But when you are performing your experiment, you might have written some lab note. You might have followed some protocol, even if it is experimental research or theoretical research or survey research, you might follow something. Okay, that is your protocol. Okay, that will be converted into materials and methods. Okay, your lab note, from the lab note, you might have something that is converted into materials and methods. So that is the next step. Again, certain part you have completed now. Okay, what will be the next step? Now, result and discussion and materials and method is over. What will be the next step? Now, you know which part of your research is very good. In the results, you know that there are several experiments you might have done, but some of the research are based on your research, some part of your research may be interesting. Based on that only, you have to start writing the introduction. You have to give proper emphasis for that particular important area, important results in the introduction part. Based on that only, you have to make some introduction, and the final paragraph of your introduction that explains little bit about the present research what you have performed. Okay, now result and discussion, methods, and introduction is over. Okay, after this only.
So shall we take a short break, sir?
Yeah, maybe we can have 5 minutes or 10 minutes break, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So participants, without leaving the Zoom room, will be back at 8:15 p.m. Thank you. You can go for a short break and be available after 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I already explained about the 3 important parts in the scientific article. One is a resultant discussion, then methods or materials and methods, as well as the introduction. What will be the next part? After writing the resultant discussion also, you can write that is a conclusion. Okay, there are 2 different parts in the scientific article. One is an abstract as well as the conclusion. That 2 are little different. Abstract means what are the things you are going to perform. That covers in the first part of the abstract. Okay, the last part of the abstract, there is only one interesting results based on your research. That should be there in the abstract. Okay, that is abstract. Again, in the conclusion, that contains all the absurd results. Okay, in the abstract, what are the experiments you are going to perform? Experiment means theoretical, that is some different kind of things. Like that, you have to classify in the abstract, and in the conclusion, all the obtained results should be listed. These are the difference between abstract and conclusion. Now you can complete both abstract and conclusion. Now, what are the remaining parts are there in the scientific article? There is a result, the references that you can include, and again, finally, few more things are still exist. So one is actually we have now in our hand there is a newborn baby. Okay, our findings and that all compiled, and we have a newborn baby, that is your research article. Okay, after born a baby only, we will name it. The same thing here also. After completing all the writing, you should think of the title of your research article. Okay, based on all the obtained results. Okay, because the title is a very, very important one. Some people or some researchers may read only the title of the thesis, the title of the article. If the title is interesting, then only they start reading your abstract and again, consequently, all the part of your research. If the title is not interesting, they skip your article and move to the next article. Okay, thereby the title should be very catchy. That is the first thing. And another important thing is that contain almost all the informations inside the research article, that cover almost all the informations inside the research article. In that way, you have to frame the title. Then all the things are completed. What will be the final? One more thing is there. That is actually the name of the authors. Okay, that is actually the final part of the research article writing. Okay, but many of the researcher or research scholar, what they used to do is first they write the author's name. Okay, that is not correct. The ethically, that is not correct. Finally, after completing all the things, the researcher, the research scholar, he should explain what are the experiments he has performed that one and who and all help that particular experiment. Okay, based on the contribution, he has to discuss with the supervisor and finally decide the author's arrangement, 1, 2, 3, first author, second author, and third author, everything. This is what the research ethics. These are not happening in a proper way nowadays in the when you are writing the scientific. If you write the scientific article in this way, definitely your article will be accepted next time. I can explain you some more hints. I give some more hints here. From that, you can write a good scientific article. Okay, this is what the organization which I have already explained. There is a number of methods were used to achieve M plus R, that is experimental section. Again, this R plus D, that is results and discussion section. Okay, now what is a scientific paper? A scientific paper, again, it is a written and published report describing original research. This is what I mentioned in the first slide. And again, it must be first publication of your original research results, and again in a form whereby peers of others can repeat the experiments and test the conclusions and your research findings. Okay, that is the most important thing. That is what we are giving the materials and methods. Methods should be repeated by any people. Okay, that is what the scientific article. If you are doing some patent, then you don't have to reveal much things. But if you are writing the scientific article, you have to reveal all the information. Because you all know that if you wanted to follow some of the Chinese articles, Chinese research articles, you never able to follow it. Okay, because they do something, but they write something different. In that way, you are not able to execute that methodology to conduct. Okay, that is the problem. Okay, then these are again the definition of the scientific paper. The first one is to assess observations, to repeat experiments, to confirm your results, to evaluate intellectual process, again must have an impact as well as available to scientific community without any restriction or masking. Okay, and another important thing is available for regular screening by one or more of the major recognized secondary services, that is biological abstracts, index medicals, PubMed, and many other websites are available for that. Okay, now I can come back to the language points. When you are writing the scientific article, this is what the real truth. You can see here, poor experimentation cannot be masked by the brilliant writing. However, poor writing can make brilliant experimentation. That is what I mentioned. Even though your experiment is good, sometimes your findings can be placed in the Nobel. You may get a Nobel Prize also. But when you are writing in a poor manner, your Nobel Prize may go away. Okay, that is an important thing. And again, when you are framing the sentences, you have to avoid complex sentences. You always write very simple sentences to understand even the non-expert in that particular research area. And again, the next important one is use simple and clear English. Always keep in mind that paragraph is the essential unit of thought. Okay, one should not write one complete page as a one paragraph or 2 pages or a single paragraph. always break the paragraph. Then only the reading is interesting. Otherwise, reading is boring. Even it is a storybook also, we have to, the breaking is there in the paragraph, then only it will be interesting. Otherwise, you will get bored of reading that. In that way, you have to make a paragraph. Okay, before starting to write the paper, this is what I mentioned. Record your readings, that means results, make tables, draw graphs, keep files to record summaries of results, and any observation, however insignificant, they date the files. That is very, very important. Even in the hard copy or soft copy in the computer, you please make the date and date in the files and revise your readings, repeat and confirm it. And you may need to repeat and experiment while you still have the materials. And again, you keep the material still your data is publishing in the journals, scientific journals, and write ideas whenever they come to your mind. Okay, that is a very important thing. What are the essential part of scientific paper? These are all I have already explained. Title, abstract, introduction, materials, methods, results, discussion, summary, acknowledgement, references. These all everyone know that. Okay, now I can explain you how one can write a title and how one can write abstract. All the things I can explain one by one within another 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, the title, how the title should be. A good title that is actually defined as the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. That the title should be too short or not too long. Okay, it should be in a very intermediate manner. Okay, and it should be focused one. Okay, that should not be a broad title. The title should not be very broad. It should be a focused one. Okay, I already mentioned that the title is extremely important and must be chosen with great care, as it will be read by the thousands, whereas few will read the entire paper. That's what I mentioned. Again, indexing and abstracting of the paper sometimes it depends on the words in your title. Okay, the words that in the title of that particular scientific article. In that way, the title is a very, very, very important one for publishing a paper in a scientific article. Again, that's what I mentioned. It should not be neither too short nor too long. And again, waste words, for example, studies on investigation. That is what we are doing research. You don't have to use this word, studies on, investigations on, again, and this kind of words should be avoided. Okay, this kind of words should be avoided. Again, syntax, the word order must be very, very carefully considered. Okay, some words should come first and some words could come in the last part of the title. And the syntax is very, very important. And again, it should contain the keywords that reflect the contents of the paper. That is what I mentioned. Entire content. After writing the paper, you know the content of the paper. Based on that, only you pick some words from the content and frame the syllabus. First, you have to write few words from your research findings, and that few words should be connected with some more words, and that is what you are typing. And again, it should be meaningful and not general, and it should be concise, specific, and informative, and it also should capture the fundamental nature of the experiments and findings. These are some of the examples. Okay, here the first example is action of antibiotics on bacteria. Okay, here in this title there is no action. Okay, the action should be defined. What action happened in the antibiotics? Okay, here again they have not mentioned which antibiotic. There are so many antibiotics. They have not mentioned which antibiotics it is, and again they have not mentioned which bacteria it is. Okay, these are the important. The action should be defined. Again, the antibiotics should be listed, and again the bacteria should be listed. Okay, again the second one, the second title you can see it here: mechanism of suppression of non-transmissible pneumonia in mice induced by Newcastle disease virus. Here everything is mentioned. Okay. Now here the action, again antibiotic, everything is explained in the title. Another important title you can see here, evaluation of the methylation status of the promoter of prostate apoptosis PAR4 gene and its protein expression in Egyptian cancer patients. And the last one also you can see the short and sweet effect of sunlight. Okay, the sunlight is an important source here on leaf morphology. Okay, leaf is a general one, but the morphology is a thing. Okay, this is what you have to frame the title. And how to prepare the title, again, make a list of most important keywords. That's what I mentioned. Again, think of the title that contains these words. And again, the title could state that conclusion of the paper. Okay, for example, your paper have, for example, you have done some supercapacitor. Finally, that the efficiency of the supercapacitor that should come in the title. Okay, and again, like that, the different kind of observables. And again, the title that never contains abbreviations. Again, chemical formulas, proprietary names or jargon. That is a very important thing. And again, when you are framing the title, you have to think and again rethink of the title before submitting the paper. And again, you should be very, very careful that grammatical errors should not be there in the title. And again, word order, that syntax which I have mentioned, that is also very important. And again, avoid the word use of the word using. Okay, the next important one is abstract. An abstract that can be defined as a summary of the information in the document. It is the fundamental and again another importance that the abstract be written clearly and again very simple manner. And again it should provide a brief summary of each of the main section. Introduction part also should be covered with one sentence, and again the materials and methods also one sentence should be there, and again one results and finally one discussion. In that way, this should be framed. And describe the methods that use, again summarize the results, and again state the principal conclusion. Principal conclusion, and these are covered in that. What is the criteria again? It should not exceed more than 250 words. So now some of the journals even they are fixing it even 150 words. Okay, the maximum is 250 words. You should not go beyond that. Again, it should be written in only one single paragraph. Don't make any paragraph in the abstract. And it should be written in the past tense as it refers to work done. Okay, that is a very, very important thing. Nowadays, many people, when they are writing the paper, they never worry about the tenses. Okay, here the abstract always be written in the past tense. And again, you should not use the long words. Okay, but if there is a long word, that should be followed by its abbreviation, which can be followed in the future. Again, it should not cite any reference. Okay, abstractly, there should not be any reference. Again, it should never give any information or conclusion that is not stated in the paper. What they used to tell is, they have performed some experiment. Based on that, they conclude that this material is used for some application. Okay, but they have never executed that application work in that particular paper, but they write that this is for this particular application. One should not mention that words in that particular paper anywhere. Okay, that is a very, very important thing. Again, must be accurate, again, with respect to figures that quoted in the main text. Then the next important part is the introduction. Here, the introduction that should answer these following questions. What was I studying in that particular research? Again, what was this an important question in with respect to current scenario? Okay, that is an important thing. And again, what did I know about this topic based on my own idea and literature survey? And again, what model I testing? Okay, that is what, that all these parts should be covered in that particular thing. and what approach did I take in this particular study. All the things should be explained in the introduction part. Okay, these are some of the suggested rules to write a good introduction. Okay, again, it should be in the it should present the nature and scope of the problem investigated, as well as you can review the pertinent literature, proper literature related to the specific property of that particular research. And again, state the method of investigation, that is very, very important, that based on your literature and your methodology. And again, state the principal results of the investigation. For example, in the third one, that state the method means some of the materials preparation method. Okay, in the literature, they may use some method. You are improving that method with something else. In that, you can state the specific reason and why you are using that particular thing. That is what there. And again, state the principal conclusion suggested by the results. That is what I explained. Only one result you should explain in the last line of the introduction. Here, these are the general rules. When you are writing the introduction, use the present tense when referring to work that has already been published. But past tense when referring to your own study. You might have studied something already. And when you are referring your study, you have to use the past tense. When you are using the others' work from the literature, you have to use the present tense. And again, use the active voice always, as much as possible. Don't use the passive voice, because some people, they use the passive voice. Why they are using the passive voice means they refer some sentences from some other journal. They wanted to keep the same meaning, but wanted to make the sentence. In that way, they make it as a passive voice. Okay, but don't do that. Please keep always the active voice when you are writing the introduction or any other thing. Avoid lengthy or unfocused reviews of previous research, and again, cite peer-reviewed scientific literature or scholarly reviews. Avoid general reference works such as textbooks and all. Okay, and another important thing is define any specialized terms or abbreviations, and for that you have to be a detailed. Again, the next important thing is a materials and method, which I have explained. You have to provide complete details about the protocol. And again, if the peer reviewer has doubts that the experiment would be repeated, the manuscript will be rejected. Okay, if it is not, they think that if it is not rejected, then the manuscript will be rejected. So you should provide all the information here. Again, it organizes the methods under subheadings with related methods. For example, biological journals and all, they use what are the materials, and they use different methods, different experiments. They keep different paragraphs. That is also good. And describe the experimental design in detail, and do not mix some of the results in this materials and methods section. And this should be always written in a past tense, because all the experiments which you have already performed, based on that experiments only, you are now writing that article. That way you have to write it in a past tense, the materials and methods. Okay, this we can skip. Now the methods that I have already explained. Now how to write the results. The result section is written in the past tense always. Again, you all know that it is the core or heart of our paper. Okay, the resultant discussion is the heart of the paper, and again, it needs to be clearly and simply stated, since it constitutes the new knowledge contributed by yourself, and that has to be followed by many people in the band. And again, the purpose of this section is to summarize and illustrate the findings in an orderly as well as the logical sequence without interpretation. Okay, that is a result. Again, there is an analysis and discussion is there. That is something different. Okay, here the methods of presenting the data there, that should be directly in the text or in table or in figure, and again the images or many other format. Okay, that is what the presentation of data, tables and figures, how it should be, and again how to write the discussion. Now the final part is how to write the data. It is the hardest section to write. Again, it is primary purpose is to show the relationship among the absurd facts. Again, it should end with a short summary. Okay, that is what the discussion. You should have some short summary on that. Again, it should again the significance of the work also may be written in the final part of the discussion. These are some of the components of the in the discussion. Try to present the principles, relationships, and generalization shown by the result. Here you have to make a lot of comparison study. For example, you have obtained some results, you have to make the comparison among the literature that your research is good. That is the first thing. Then later that how your research is good, that you have to write some sentences. Okay, then how research will be fruitful in the research in that particular area and how it can be utilized for the future researchers. In that way, you have to write a discussion part. Okay, and again, discuss the theoretical implications of your work and any possible practical application. That's what I mentioned. And again, state your conclusion as clearly as possible and summarize your evidences for each conclusion. Because we used to do several experiments. So we, for example, in my area is a material science aspect. For example, we used to prepare the material and characterize the material in different aspects. Okay, structural, that means XRD, morphological, that means some term, and again, composition in terms of EDAX as well as XPS, and again, if we perform some functional properties, electrical, optical, mechanical, like that, do a lot of characterization based on the functional property. We use the material for some application, electrical application, optical application, like that we used to do. Okay, now whenever you perform all these experiments, okay, here you have to find out why we are performing that experiments, and that has to be written in a very clear way. Okay, that is there. So that should be there in the discussion part. Okay. Now, the next important part is actually the acknowledgement, conclusion and acknowledgement, and again that all should be there. And the reference, that is also important thing. What is meant by referencing? Referencing is actually a standardized way of acknowledging the source of information and ideas that you have used in your document. That may be in different way, the reference. Here, a list of all the references used in the text must be written. Again, the format, that is very important, because some of the journal use some format, some of them are using different format. Okay, we have to follow the same format in the particular journal. Okay, and in text citations also, sometimes they may put it in the bracket, their square bracket and other bracket, and again sometimes it may be in a superscript. That all the things you have to follow it up based on the journal format. That is important thing. Again, in name and year system and all the things you should follow. Okay, these are some of the examples for the referencing. And again, this is again the same component. This is what the writing the scientific article. Okay, now how to find out the correct journal? That is an important thing. Here, the impact factor is not so important. Okay, impact factor is not so important. You should publish your paper with a related subjects. That is, then only you will get a good citations. That is an important thing. Again, the acceptance percentage also much higher. Okay, in that way, you have to choose the correct journal. That is a very, you have to choose the correct title first. Based on the title, you can search some journal, and you have to go inside the journal and check the article, latest published article, and you have to find out these articles also related to your research area. From that only, finalize your journal, which journal you wanted to upload your paper for publication. That is a very, very important thing. Okay. Okay, now I have covered almost two parts of my lecture. There is one is actually the how to execute the research, and the next important one is how to write the scientific research article, and the final one is how to write the research proposal. But now, right now, I have very less time. Even then, I just would like to tell few things about the scientific research proposal. I'm not touching upon any slides, but within another 2-3 minutes, I can explain you how to write the research proposal for the modern, latest funding agency proposal style. Okay, where we used to do as a material scientist or engineers, even then, previously what they used to do is we frame some objectives. Okay, the objectives that should be a broad objective as well as the specific objective. Okay, for example, what we used to write is we always tell that we used to prepare this material. For that, we used to adopt this method of preparing the sample, and we do used to characterize the material with these techniques, and finally we apply this material for this application. This is what we used to do the objective before. Now they don't expect this kind of blah blah stories. What they expect is actually in the broad objective that should be written 1 or 2 sentences. There, your final application. Okay. For example, if you want to prepare or improve the efficiency of the supercapacitor, or improving the cyclic stability in the battery, or improving the photodegradation capacity of some the heavy metal absorption or anything. Okay, that should be come as a first objective, that is a broad objective. Okay, now in order to attain that objective, you should have some specific objective. Okay, for example, if you want to make a good catalytic material for several applications, what are the parameters you should follow to prepare the catalyst? Okay, one should have a very broad surface area, very high surface area. That is the first thing. Another important thing is actually a cost. Cost-wise, it should be very less. And again, for example, if it is a catalytic material for some photodegradation, it should be reusable. Okay, you have to think all the things, and based on that, you have to frame the specific objective of that particular problem. Okay, this is what you have to frame the objective. Okay, before that, you have to do some introduction. That introduction has actually the gap analysis. Okay, you are preparing the good catalytic material. You have to explain what is a catalytic material and what are the existing technology or existing material in the catalyst, and what are their efficiency, why the efficiency is less. Okay, how to improve the efficiency, all the things that cover the introduction. Now the next part is your objective. The next part is what are the experiments already done in terms of international as well as the national level for the specific problem. And in terms of patent, you have to search the patent and product aspect also nowadays. In that way, you have to write a good review based on the international and national aspect. Then only your technical writing will come, your methodology. How you wanted to execute your research problem, that is a research methods. Okay, then you have to write a protocol in terms of year-wise. Okay, period wise, that is actually the period. For example, if the project is for the 3 years, you have to write first 6 months what you will do. From that, what will be the output, what will be the next 6 months, and finally, you have to give the product, patent or product. You frame the proposal in such a way that it will be approved. Okay, this is all about the writing. The second important component is there in the research proposal, that is actually the budget. And again, before that, the research problem which you have wanted to execute should be in the modern and recent research areas that should be directly applicable for the society. That is another important thing. Okay, in that way, You should frame either, because some way our research that should be related to the society, that we can make it little difficult, because we are all in the academic sector. We are not a complete full-time researcher. We are academic, partially academic and partial researcher. It's very difficult, but even then we have to think that we have to go with a societal impact. Okay, in that way we have to write the research proposal. Again, when you are deciding the budget, that also matter. Okay, you have to think carefully about your research problem. What are the things you require? And you have to decide first that one, and based on that only you have to make a budget that should be in a very minimal manner. Then only it will be applicable. Okay, பேராசப்பட்டு public இது நிறைய போட்டோம் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா ஃபண்ட் போட்டோம்னா it may not be accepted. So please think of your research area and again the expenses. Based on that, you please write a proposal, a budget, and also write the explanation for all the budget heads in a very clear way and very detailed way. Then only your proposal will get accepted. And again, finding the correct funding agency, that is a very important thing. Don't go for the conventional funding agency. You all know that. What does it mean? Conventional funding agency means UGC, DST, DBT. These are not conventional funding agencies. But for example, if you are a biologist, there is a ministry called Ayush. They are funding a lot of things. For example, if you are engineers with you want to make some energy material, the Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Sources are there. They are supporting many projects. Like the different ministries, they are making, for example, the Ministry of Culture, they are giving lot of ICSSR, they are giving lot of project under the ICSSR. Okay, in that way, you please think of non-conventional funding agencies instead of conventional funding agencies. In that way, you can attract several funds. And if you write almost what I told in the research, writing the scientific article is actually meant for a research proposal also. But here you have to frame little different than the scientific article. But if you write it so, definitely your proposal also will get accepted. Maybe with this, I can stop it here. If you have any queries, one or two queries, I can ready to answer the queries. Please.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful presentation. And before you close, we can go for the queries from the participants.
If you have any queries, I can ready to answer, please. Any questions? No, no questions at all.
So the proposals, what we are drafting,
Yes, sir.
will not go for the second part of evaluation. What might be the reason, sir?
There are several reasons. Nowadays, the people, for example, you all know that the ranking agencies now, even in the NAC, many of the research institutions, when they visit, they are always asking about the product. Okay, the reason is the funding agencies again. All the funding agencies, they are interested, they are interested only in the product aspects, not in the publication or patent aspect. Okay, if you are framing the research proposal based on the product level only, they are considering your proposal. Now, the next step will be, they will ask about the TRL level. Okay, your final product will be in which TRL level? That will be the next step they ask. Okay, in that way, that is the reason when you are writing some basic science or basic engineering research proposal, they never accept it, sir. If you are going in the applied research area, then only your proposal will be considered in the future, sir. Almost all the funding agencies, they are not at all interested in the basic science research. Okay, that might be the reason. And if you please focus on some device-based terminology in the objectives. Then definitely it will go through.
Participants, you can go forward with the questions. This is a very general topic,
Yeah.
which everyone faces in their academics and as well as in the research.
Okay, I think there is no question, sir. Maybe I can give you some question, you can evaluate them.
So is the funding being presented to higher education systems rather than institutions, sir?
I don't understand the question, sir. Please repeat, sir.
Apart from the basic engineering college or the arts and science college at lower level, in the university level, the research will be given to the IITs or
one thing what you can
NITs.
you can reduce the budget, sir. When you are going in a little basic level, you can just reduce the budget, and in that way it may be approved, sir. Because in my next slide, I have some, I have listed some funding agencies also. You all know that I have listed something during my talk also. I have listed few things, but don't go for conventional funding agent. That's what my suggestion. Okay, please go for non-conventional funding agencies. That definitely help you to get some project.
So there's a question in the chat box, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, will you please suggest suitable funding agencies for chemical sciences?
Chemical sciences means that is again based on the research. So for example, chemical science people, they used to do a lot of energy related activities, energy materials like battery, supercapacitor, in terms again, there are so many other activities. Here, if it is a battery or some related energy related activities, they can go for a Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Sources, MNCRE. Okay, they are funding a lot of things. Recently, in the last September also, they had a call. It was over in September 15. They have invited a project that fund from minimum 50 lakhs to maximum of 5 or 10 crores. Okay, in there, if you go for a big project, you always go with the collaborators. Okay, some with some big institute. Big means better than our institution. We have to make some collaboration with better than the present institution which we are placed. In that way, we can crack that. We can get some funding from that funding agencies too. And not only one single institution, you can make some 4 or 5 collaboration with some 4 or 5 institution also. In that way also, you can frame the you can formulate the proposal. In that way, the acceptance rate will be higher.
So can you please suggest some ideas such that the research can play a greater role in the product-based proposals and activities?
Yeah, that I have already mentioned in the first part of my lecture. In order to have a product, you have to just think. That is the most important thing. Okay, you have, for example, we know our capability, our subject area, which subject we are working, everything we know. Based on that, some of the devices may work. We have to find out the advantages and disadvantages related to that particular device. Okay, in that particular, that's what the glucometer also. I explained with the glucometer, I explained with the fan, electrical fan. These are a simple example. Okay, like that. For example, now the problem with the electrical vehicle. Okay, what is the problem with the electrical vehicle? We cannot run the electrical vehicle for long distance. Okay, after some time you have to recharge it again. Okay, when you are recharging the battery, it takes long time. For example, if you want to charge the cell phone, it will take, nowadays there is a fast recharge available. Even then it will take 15 to 30 minutes. If it is a car battery, it will take much more time. There is, for example, the researchers identified that instead of battery take long time of charging. They can make the hybrid type of things. That is actually battery with a supercapacitor. Supercapacitor can charge very fast. Okay, but again, it is recharging very fast. But battery charging will take long time. Recharging also will take long time. If you make a hybridized things, then charging also happen very long, very fast, and again discharging will happen in a very slow manner. Okay, this is what identifying the problem, how to identify the problem and resolve the problem. Like that, we have to decide the problem. Based on that, we have to execute that particular research and give a solution to that particular problem.
Any queries from the participant side? So if there are no queries, shall we go for the closing, sir?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the
I
wonderful.
again thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity. I thank you all the participants for your patient listening. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So thank you very much sharing this session towards this late evening and presenting your wonderful ideas about from the scratch to the proposals and giving much motivated ideas for researchers and scholars to take part in research. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Professor.